Imagine trying to coordinate 1,200 physical in-person training events.
Yeah, physical events, not Zoom calls.
Right, exactly. Real-world stuff across the entirety of North America. So you're talking about managing 51 traveling experts who are, constantly moving through airports, picking up rental cars, checking into hotels.
That hauling incredibly heavy roofing materials to active job sites.
Right, and dealing with unpredictable weather delays, traffic, all of that. Now, I want you to imagine managing that entire continent-spanning logistical beast using a single shared spreadsheet.
Oh, man. It makes my chest tight just thinking about it.
It is terrifying. But today, we are looking at what happens when that fragile house of cards inevitably begins to collapse, and why the modern instinct to just, slap an artificial intelligence layer on top of that chaos is actually the absolute worst thing you can do for your business.
Yeah, it is the absolute worst.
Welcome to this deep dive. We are speaking directly to you today about a harsh but really necessary reality for anyone trying to scale an operation.
It's a reality that completely shatters that whole Silicon Valley myth of the instant frictionless AI integration, because we're so conditioned to think of software as a magic wand.
Oh, 100%. Just press a button and it is fixed.
Right, exactly.
And that is the core topic we are unpacking today. Why AI won't fix your operation if it cannot run itself first. We are going to explore the granular mechanics of what it actually takes to prepare a business for artificial intelligence. And we're framing this around a fascinating methodology developed by Jesus Vargas.
A really brilliant approach, honestly.
Yeah. And if you aren't familiar with his background, Vargas founded an agency called LowCode Agency back in 2019. They have a global team of 40 people, and they've shipped over 450 products.
Which is a massive portfolio.
Huge. They build for everyone from scrappy first-time founders all the way up to massive, high-stakes organizations like Sotheby's, American Express, Coca-Cola, Zapier, Medtronic.
Which I think establishes a crucial baseline for this whole conversation, because when you are architecting systems for Medtronic, right, an entity that manufactures life-saving medical devices, or Sotheby's, which handles the global logistics of multi-million-dollar art assets,
Right.
a software glitch in those environments is not a minor inconvenience. It's a catastrophic event. So that requires a fundamentally different approach to software development than just, spinning up a quick prototype over the weekend.
Yeah, that rigorous approach is entirely crystallized in Vargas's other venture, which is Phos AI Labs. It's the sister brand to LowCode Agency. And Phos operates as an embedded AI lab specifically designed for serious companies generating between $5 million and $25 million in annual revenue.
Yeah, and that specific revenue bracket, that $5 to $25 million range, is what we often call the operational valley of death.
The Valley of Death. I love that term.
It is so accurate, though, because a company at that stage has grown far beyond the point where the original founders can just manage things through sheer force of will, right?
Yeah.
Long nights and whiteboards.
Right, you can't just hustle your way out of it anymore.
Exactly. However, they are rarely large enough to sustain a massive in-house engineering department with like 50 dedicated software developers. So they get trapped. They are trapped in this incredibly vulnerable growth stage where their operational debt begins to compound daily.
Just piling up?
Yeah, and it threatens to crush the very momentum that made them successful in the first place. So they need an external partner to untangle the mess, but they cannot afford theoretical exercises. They need survival tactics.
And the survival tactic that Phos AI Labs deploys is built on this unyielding philosophy, which is strategy first, then systems. And it has to happen in that exact right order. You don't just buy the software and try to bend your strategy to fit it. You map the strategy and build the system to support it. So the mission of our deep dive today is to explore what it actually means to act as a genuine development partner using that philosophy, rather than just acting as a vendor who tosses an app at a problem and walks away.
Good luck. Here's your login.
Exactly. And to do that, we're going to tear down a real-world case study involving GLF, the organization that runs the largest roofing contractor training program in North America.
And this case study, I gotta say, it is the perfect antidote to AI hype. Because before we can even touch on machine learning or neural networks or large language models, we have to study the baseline reality of the GAF operation.
We have to get into the mud.
We do. We have to dissect the anatomy of an operational breakdown when human beings are just pushed past their cognitive and logistical limits.
So let's look at the environment before Phos AI Labs stepped in. GAF was running those 1,200 training events a year with those 51 field trainers. And if you do the math on that, if you remove holidays and weekends, you are talking about 3 to 4 distinct physical training events happening somewhere across the continent every single day.
Every single day. And these are intense physical logistics. We aren't talking about sending a Zoom link and making sure everyone's mic is muted.
Right.
We're talking about human beings navigating the physical world. And the central nervous system for all of this movement was exactly one coordinating operation relying entirely on a spreadsheet.
It's wild. It's truly wild.
It is. And when you look at the mechanics of a spreadsheet, you begin to understand why it is such a dangerous tool for complex operations. Because a spreadsheet is essentially a flat digital piece of paper.
Just a grid.
Just a two-dimensional grid of cells. It possesses no native intelligence, no relational understanding of the data it holds, and no awareness of the real world. So cell A1 does not inherently know that a change in its value should trigger a logical consequence in cell Z99. It just passively stores text and numbers.
It's completely static. But an operation with 51 people flying around the country is highly dynamic. So when you run a dynamic operation on a static tool, what actually bridges the gap?
Human beings.
Yeah.
When automation chains have missing links, a human being becomes the duct tape holding the software together.
The human duct tape. Let's trace one of those missing links to see the fallout. Because the old system resulted in what was essentially a learning management system, or LMS. Nightmare. Every time a roofing class finished, a trainer had to close it out. They had to update records, indicating who attended, who passed the physical skills test, who earned their certification.
Which sounds simple on paper.
It does. But if a trainer made a mistake in the spreadsheet during that closure process, it corrupted the actual LMS records downstream.
And let's break down the mechanism of that corruption, because I think it perfectly illustrates the danger of flat data. So a trainer finishes a grueling day on a hot roof.
Right. They're exhausted.
Totally grained. They open the master spreadsheet, they accidentally misalign a row, or maybe they paste a certification ID code into the wrong column, or they just misspell a contractor's email address. Now, that spreadsheet is eventually exported, perhaps as a CSV file, and ingested into the enterprise-level learning management system. And the LMS database, which is rigid and structured, it just blindly maps that bad data.
It assumes the spreadsheet is telling the truth. It doesn't know any better.
It has absolutely no reason to doubt the input, so it maps the wrong certification to the wrong contractor. Now imagine the real-world consequence of that.
Oh, it gets bad.
It gets really bad. A contractor attends the training, passes the exam, and goes to bid on a massive multi-million-dollar commercial roofing job that requires specific GAF certifications. They submit their credentials, the client checks the database, and the database says they are uncertified. The contractor loses the bid, loses the revenue, and immediately calls GAF in an absolute fury. And all because a single misaligned cell in a spreadsheet has now triggered a massive commercial dispute.
And to fix it, right, the human duct tape had to be deployed. A central administrator had to manually hunt down the error. They had to pull up the corrupted LMS record on one monitor, open the massive sprawling spreadsheet on another monitor, and visually scan thousands of rows to find the exact typo, and then fix every resulting error by hand.
It is maddening. You are taking highly capable, intelligent professionals and forcing them to act as manual debuggers for a fundamentally broken architecture.
Yeah.
It is a tremendous waste of human potential.
And the friction wasn't just at the end of the class. It was happening before the classes even started. There was this massive communication breakdown regarding enrollment links. The trainers out in the field were receiving their rosters late. If a trainer wanted to know who was actually going to show up to their job site the next morning, they couldn't just look at the schedule. Checking actual enrollments meant logging into a completely different, disconnected system.
Right, and you really have to picture the user experience here. You are a trainer standing in an airport terminal in Denver, let's say. Your flight is delayed. You are trying to figure out if you need to buy extra materials for tomorrow's class based on headcount. You have to open the master scheduling spreadsheet on your smartphone.
Oh, trying to look at a massive spreadsheet on...
The worst. You find your name, you look at the class code, you copy it, you open a mobile browser, log into the separate enrollment portal, navigate the menus, paste the code, and try to cross-reference the two screens. The cognitive load is just staggering.
Yeah.
And it breeds a constant low-level state of anxiety because the tools that are supposedly designed to help you are actively fighting you.
It's like trying to direct air traffic at JFK Airport using a whiteboard and sticky notes.
That is exactly what it is like.
Okay, so if I am sitting in the director's chair at GAF and I am watching my administrative team burn out hunting down LMS typos and I'm listening to my field trainers complain about airport cross-referencing, the modern temptation is pretty overwhelming. I open my email, I see a pitch for a new generative AI tool, and I think, perfect, let's just point an AI at the spreadsheet in the enrollment portal and tell it to run the logistics.
Oh yeah, the magic button.
The magic button. But from an architectural standpoint, why is that an absolute trap?
Because an artificial intelligence, especially a large language model or a machine learning algorithm, is fundamentally a pattern recognition engine. It requires structured, reliable data to identify patterns and make decisions. If you feed an AI a corrupted spreadsheet filled with human errors, misaligned rows, and disconnected data silos, you're training the model on a false reality.
So it's basically like handing a supercomputer a map of New York City, where half the streets are labeled backwards, the one-way signs are missing, and some of the bridges just don't exist. The computer is going to calculate the mathematically fastest route based on that map, and it is going to confidently drive you straight into the East River.
That is a great analogy, and that is the exact mechanism of failure. The AI will not fix the underlying data structure. It will simply accelerate the execution of bad data. If the spreadsheet says a trainer is in 2 places at once due to a typo, an AI scheduler will confidently book flights for both locations in milliseconds.
Faster, more confident errors.
Exactly. Throwing AI at a broken system just gives you faster, more confident hallucinations. A genuine development partner looks at that scenario and tells the client the hard truth, which is, you cannot optimize chaos. You have to build the roads before you can deploy the autonomous vehicles.
Which brings us to how Phos AI Labs actually dismantled this problem. Because they adhered to their strategy-first philosophy. They didn't start by writing complex algorithms or training models. They started by analyzing the most critical constraint in the entire operation, which had nothing to do with code. It had to do with the end users. The field trainers are experts in roofing, not software.
And this is where standard software vendors usually fail, because a vendor typically designs a system that makes sense to a software engineer. They build interfaces meant to be viewed on dual high-definition monitors in a climate-controlled office.
With a perfect broadband connection.
Right, a stable broadband connection operated by someone whose primary job is data entry.
But the reality of a GAF field trainer is radically different from that. They might have calluses on their hands. They might be wearing thick work gloves. They could be standing on a reflective commercial roof in Texas in July, dealing with intense sun glare on a cracked smartphone screen, trying to quickly close out a class before their battery dies or they lose cellular service.
Yeah, and if the software architecture requires that trainer to navigate a nested drop-down menu with tiny little checkboxes.
On a cracked screen in the sun.
Right, the software is destined to fail. A true partner builds systems that bend to the reality of the human, rather than forcing the human to bend to the rigidity of the software.
So Phos AI Labs took that reality and engineered a total rebuild over an 8-month period, structured across 3 distinct phases. Let's dissect the mechanics of version 1, the foundational layer. The primary objective here was simply to stop the bleeding. Stop the LMS corruption, stop the delayed rosters.
Yeah, the very first architectural decision in V1 was to strip away the noise. Because in the old spreadsheet model, every trainer could likely see the entire continent's schedule. The data was exposed to everyone, so V1 implemented strict role-based access control, or RBAC.
Meaning the system filters the data based on who is actually logging in.
Precisely. When a field trainer logs into V1, the database queries only the records tied to their specific unique identifier. They don't see 50 other schedules. They see their upcoming class, their location, and their roster. And by severely restricting the data exposure, you instantly reduce the visual and cognitive noise for the user.
It's just cleaner.
Much cleaner. And meanwhile, the central administrators have a completely different permission level. Their dashboard aggregates the entire continent's data in real time, accessible from any device.
So the interface adapts to the role. But the most vital mechanical shift in version 1 was the transition from passive data entry to active rule enforcement.
Yes, this is the death of the spreadsheet. A spreadsheet allows you to enter data in any order you want. You can skip cells. It is passive. V1 introduced state machines and form validation.
Let's translate that for a second. What does a state machine actually mean for the trainer up on the roof?
So it means the software understands that a class has different lifecycle states. It goes from scheduled to in progress to awaiting closure to completed. The system enforces the transition between those states. A trainer cannot mark a class as completed unless the required fields, like attendance and test scores, are filled out correctly. The submit button literally will not function.
It just grays out or something?
Yeah, the database rejects the input entirely if it doesn't match the strict schema.
So you cannot physically close the class incorrectly anymore. The sequence is locked.
Locked tight. And the downstream effects of that are massive because the LMS instantly stopped getting corrupted. It was finally receiving clean, validated data. The human administrators in the central office no longer had to act as manual debuggers.
Wow.
Furthermore, the APIs, the application programming interfaces that allow different software systems to talk to each other, they were configured to automatically push rosters and enrollment links to the trainers. No one had to remember to copy and paste a code into an email. The system handled the handoff automatically.
I really want to focus on the psychological impact of that for a moment, because we constantly talk about operational efficiency in terms of man-hours saved or ROI. But the emotional toll of bad software often goes unmeasured. Think about the team dynamic under the old spreadsheet system. When a trainer forgot a step and corrupted the LMS, a central admin had to pick up the phone, track down the trainer, and nag them to fix it.
Yeah, the admin is forced into the role of a babysitter, which they resent. And the field trainer, who is highly skilled at complex physical construction, feels like they are being micromanaged over bureaucratic paperwork, which they also resent.
Right. It creates this deeply adversarial culture, like Dave in the field is careless, Sarah in the office is a micromanager.
Exactly. But when you introduce a system with strict validation rules, you completely neutralize that interpersonal friction. The administrator doesn't have to nag Dave because Dave simply cannot proceed until the system is satisfied.
The software becomes the bad guy.
Right. The software becomes the neutral, unemotional arbiter of the rules. The adversarial relationship evaporates, and those two individuals can go back to being colleagues working toward a shared goal. The software didn't just clean the data, it repaired the organizational culture.
That is a profound way to look at V1. It restored the peace. So once the bleeding stopped, Phos AI Labs moved to version 2. This is where the architecture shifts from being purely reactive to actively anticipating the needs of the operation.
Yeah, V2 introduced event-driven notifications. Instead of administrators constantly checking dashboards to see if a trainer uploaded their post-class documentation, the system just looks at the timestamp of the class completion. If the documentation isn't uploaded within a specific time window, the system automatically fires off a gentle SMS or email reminder to the trainer. The system takes over the cognitive burden of remembering.
But the most fascinating technical hurdle in version 2, at least to me, was solving the ghost data problem. Because this is a concept that plagues almost every logistics operation I've ever seen.
Ghost data is the silent killer of operational planning. And let's look at the mechanics of why it happens. In the old spreadsheet, the columns were designed to track training events. The entire schema was built around classes. But a human being's professional life consists of more than just teaching classes.
Right, obviously.
A trainer might have to fly to a corporate headquarters for an internal summit. They might have a mandatory HR meeting. They might be taking a week of personal time off.
Under the old system, that non-training travel had no pathway for submission. There was literally no column for HR meeting. If it wasn't a training event, it couldn't exist in the spreadsheet. It just vanished into the ether.
And that is ghost data. It is reality that the system is completely blind to. So imagine the cascading failure this causes. The central coordinator pulls up the spreadsheet to schedule a crucial pop-up training in Chicago. The spreadsheet shows that Dave has a blank schedule for Thursday. The computer logic says blank equals available. So the coordinator books Dave, confirms the venue, and emails the attendees.
But Dave is actually flying to New York for a mandatory corporate summit that wasn't allowed to be logged in the system.
Exactly. The spreadsheet lied by omission. And when a system repeatedly lies to its users because of ghost data, the users develop a learned helplessness. They stop trusting the software entirely.
Right.
The coordinator realizes they can't trust the blank space, so they revert to calling and texting Dave to verbally confirm his availability, which completely defeats the purpose of having a multi-$1,000 centralized scheduling system in the first place.
It's so counterproductive. But version 2 eradicated this by changing the fundamental schema of the database. They build native input pathways for non-training events. If a trainer is unavailable for any reason, travel, illness, internal meetings, there's a structural way to log that block of time. So the calendar finally reflects objective reality. The map matches the territory.
Yes. And once you trust the map, you can begin to automate the traffic. That transitions us to version 3, where the system becomes a piece of intelligent infrastructure.
V3 implemented automatic access locking. As a physical training date approaches, the ability to edit the event details automatically locks down. From a logistical standpoint, why is that hard stop so critical?
Because of the downstream physical dependencies. Let's say you are shipping 2,000 pounds of specialized roofing shingles and booking a block of hotel rooms for 50 contractors.
Yeah.
You cannot have a rogue administrator or a confused trainer quietly changing the start time or the attendee count in the system 12 hours before the event.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
That kind of late-stage data mutation causes massive financial waste and logistical chaos. So by architecting an automatic lock based on a time-to-event countdown, you literally force stability into the physical supply chain.
That makes total sense. V3 also introduced a no-code rules engine for the administrators, so they can now update system logic without having to submit a ticket to a software developer. And they brought in QR code technology for attendance tracking.
The QR code implementation is a perfect example of bridging the physical and digital divide efficiently. Instead of a trainer passing around a paper sign-in sheet on a clipboard, struggling to read messy handwriting, and then manually typing those names into a database later that night.
Which is how everybody does it.
Right, but the workflow is inverted here. The roofing contractor simply holds up their smartphone, scans a unique QR code generated by the trainer's app, and the attendance data is injected directly into the central database via an API call in real time. It completely bypasses human data entry.
Okay, I have to step in and play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
I am looking at the timeline of this project. Phos AI Labs took 8 months to build out V1, V2, and V3. 8 months. We live in an era of agile sprints, low-code rapid prototyping, and software-as-a-service platforms that promise to transform your business in a weekend.
Yeah.
If I'm a client burning cash on a broken operation, 8 months sounds like a waterfall-era dinosaur project. How does a genuine development partner justify that timeline to a client?
It is a vital question, and the answer goes right back to that $5 to $25 million revenue bracket we talked about earlier. If you want a weekend prototype, you are building a to-do list app. But when you are managing 1,200 physical deployments across an entire continent, you are not building an app. You are engineering the structural foundation of an enterprise.
You are pitching a tent. You are pouring a concrete foundation for a skyscraper.
Exactly. You can throw up a tent in an hour, but the first storm will destroy it. When you build a relational database schema that has to account for complex human behaviors, time zones, physical logistics, and API integrations with enterprise systems, you simply cannot rush it.
Right.
If you rush the data model, you permanently bake operational debt into the foundation. Those 8 months of rigorous architecture produce something a weekend sprint never could. Pristine, structured data, perfect error-free attendance records, a calendar completely devoid of ghost data, strict state machine transitions. That 8-month build created the exact digital environment necessary for the next phase.
It created the connective tissue. And this is the pivot point of the entire deep dive. We have spent this entire time talking about the plumbing. We've talked about databases, state machines, ghost data, QR codes. But this exhaustive foundational rebuild didn't just make the humans faster. It created the exact conditions required for true artificial intelligence to function. GAF finally earned the right to use AI.
Yes, earning the right to use AI. That phrase perfectly encapsulates Vargas's philosophy. You do not get to use advanced machine learning until you prove you can govern your own basic data.
The automation foundation must come first.
It has to. Phos AI Labs is currently layering the AI capabilities on top because the underlying operation can now run itself flawlessly without human duct tape.
If they had tried to deploy an AI layer back in the spreadsheet era, it would have been apocalyptic.
Oh, completely.
The AI would have confidently booked Dave for a training in Seattle while he was actually on PTO because of ghost data. It would have triggered certification renewals based on corrupted LMS typos.
Right. It would have automated the chaos at the speed of light. But now the AI has a pristine, highly structured relational database to interact with. It can finally fulfill its potential.
Let's explore the mechanics of what this newly enabled AI layer will actually do, starting with a feature the case study calls intelligent matchmaking.
So intelligent matchmaking is essentially a multivariate constraint satisfaction problem.
Which means what, practically?
Well, it is a mathematical puzzle that is incredibly taxing for a human brain, but completely trivial for an algorithm.
Because before the AI, Matching a trainer to a specific event was a manual judgment call. A central coordinator had to cross-reference multiple variables simultaneously. They had to check the trainer's badge level to ensure they were legally certified to teach that specific commercial roofing course. They had to check the geographic region to minimize flight costs. And they had to check real availability.
Let's quantify the cognitive load of that task for a second. The coordinator needs to staff an advanced certification event in Dallas. They look at Trainer A. Trainer A is certified, but Trainer A is based in Seattle. Flying them to Dallas ruins the profit margin of the event.
Okay, cross them off.
Right, so they look at Trainer B. Trainer B lives in Texas, but their advanced certification expired last month. They look at Trainer C. Trainer C is local and certified, but because of ghost data in the old system, the coordinator isn't sure if Trainer C is actually available or if they are in an HR meeting.
Just doing that mental calculus for one event is exhausting.
Doing it for 1,200 events causes the coordinator to completely burn out.
But with the AI layer resting on top of clean, structured data, the algorithm can query the database, cross-check the badge levels, calculate the geographic distance, and verify true calendar availability in milliseconds. It evaluates thousands of possible permutations and recommends the mathematically optimal trainer instantly.
It completely eliminates the human bottleneck of scheduling. And once the AI masters the scheduling, it moves into performance analytics. The AI isn't just moving pieces on a board, it's actually analyzing how the game is played.
So the system will be able to show which trainers perform best in specific regions and identify which specific types of training cause the most administrative anomalies or attendance drop-offs.
Right, because a human administrator buried in spreadsheet typos cannot see macro-level patterns. They can't see that every time a specific course is taught in the Northeast during winter, the completion rate drops by 20%.
Yeah, you just missed the forest for the trees.
Exactly. An AI, however, can instantly surface that anomaly from the structured data. This allows leadership to investigate the root cause. Are the winter weather delays impacting the curriculum? Does the regional manager need better logistical support? The AI transitions from being an administrative tool to a strategic advisor.
The AI is also going to provide instant support to the field team. This addresses a massive pain point for any growing company, because when you hire a new field trainer, they spend their first 3 months constantly interrupting the veteran trainers with procedural questions. How do I log a rental car expense? What's the policy for a weather cancellation? Where is the updated PDF for the safety waiver?
Yeah, it creates a massive drain on the productivity of your most valuable, experienced employees.
But with the new architecture, Phos AI Labs is deploying an AI system that acts as an embedded knowledge base.
This typically uses a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RG. The AI is securely connected to the company's internal documentation, policies, and clean system data. So when a new trainer in the field has a question, they don't call the veteran employee.
They just ask the AI.
They text the AI interface right on their phone. The AI instantly retrieves the exact policy, synthesizes an answer, and delivers it to the new hire. The veteran employee keeps working, completely uninterrupted. You effectively scale your institutional knowledge infinitely.
And finally, the AI handles smart communications, sending perfectly timed reminders based on a trainer's real-time schedule and drafting external communications automatically. If we step back and look at the cumulative effect of these AI features, the matchmaking, the analytics, the instant support, the automated communications, it raises a really profound question about the nature of leadership.
It really forces an organizational evolution. Because when the artificial intelligence assumes the burden of complex logistical cross-referencing and basic support, what is actually left for the management team to do?
They don't have to spend their days playing calendar Tetris anymore.
Precisely. Management transitions from dealing with logistics to optimizing human talent. A director is no longer an administrator moving chess pieces around a board. They become a true leader, analyzing the game, coaching the players, and refining the strategy. The technology forces leadership to elevate their role.
Which brings us to the ultimate outcome. We've explored the deep technical architecture, the database schemas, the shift from reactive to proactive, and the mechanics of the AI integration. But what did this massive operational overhaul actually look like for the human beings on the ground? What were the tangible results of Phos AI Labs acting as a genuine development partner for GAF?
The metrics are nothing short of an operational renaissance. They really validate every grueling month of that foundational rebuild.
The case study reveals a 75% reduction in training administration time, 3/4 of the raw hours previously spent managing this massive logistical beast simply vanished.
All those hours previously burned by human duct tape hunting down LMS corruptions, cross-referencing late enrollment links, manually verifying ghost data were reclaimed by the organization.
There is now zero manual coordination required for class closures. The state machines enforce the sequence flawlessly every single time, and the impact on the 51 field trainers is revolutionary. They are now fully mobile.
Which is huge for them.
It's massive. They can update class statuses, trigger automated closures, and access real-time rosters directly from job sites, airport lounges, hotel lobbies across North America, all through a customized interface without ever touching a spreadsheet.
They are equipped with the full power of the central office, packaged in an interface designed for the physical reality of their environment. Meanwhile, leadership has gained full, real-time, objective visibility across every single trainer and every single one of those 1,200 events. The era of guessing and hoping the spreadsheet is accurate is over.
But out of all the technical achievements and efficiency metrics, there's one realization from this case study that I find the most compelling, because it fundamentally changes how we view employee performance. The documentation notes, and I quote, "The trainers haven't changed. What changed is that the system no longer asks them to behave like administrators."
Yeah, that insight strikes at the heart of so much corporate dysfunction. Because when an operation breaks down, the immediate reflex of management is almost always to blame the personnel. They look at the corrupted LMS and say, our field trainers lack attention to detail. They look at the ghost data and say, our team is stubborn, they refuse to adopt the protocols.
We diagnose a systemic failure as a character flaw.
We assume the humans are defective. But the Phos AI Labs intervention proved unequivocally that the humans were perfectly capable all along. The field trainers were brilliant at their actual jobs, which is teaching complex roofing techniques to contractors. The operational failure occurred because the organization was taking highly specialized experts and forcing them to act as low-level data entry clerks to prop up a poorly designed system.
The company was demanding that the humans bend to accommodate the broken software, instead of building software that bent to support the humans.
And the GAF director's own reflection validates this entirely. After the implementation, the director noted that in the past, they were just using spreadsheets and praying nothing fell through the cracks. But after partnering with Phos AI Labs, the AI handles 75% of the administrative burden, and the team finally handles the work they are actually great at.
Quote, "The team handles the work they are actually great at. That is the defining difference between a vendor and a partner. A standard vendor sells you a license to an app, hands you a login credential, and wishes you luck. A genuine development partner, adhering to the strategy-first philosophy, engineers a system that restores a team to its true purpose."
It liberates the human capital that was trapped under the weight of operational debt. The sequence of building the automation foundation first, establishing pristine structured data as the connective tissue, and only then layering the AI on top. That is the blueprint. That is what Jesus Vargas and his team execute for companies relying on human duct tape to survive.
It is an incredibly powerful framework that strips the magic away from AI and replaces it with rigorous structural engineering. To recap the deep dive we've taken you on today, we started by examining a massive operation on the brink of collapse, desperately balancing 1,200 continent-wide events on a single, fragile spreadsheet, entirely reliant on human beings to bridge the gaps in the data.
And we broke down how a genuine partner resisted the urge to apply a quick AI bandage. Instead, they executed an 8-month foundational rebuild focusing on strategy first. They stripped away cognitive noise with role-based access, enforced rules with state machines, eliminated ghost data by mapping reality to the database, and created a proactive, event-driven infrastructure.
And we learned that only by enduring that difficult, unglamorous foundational work do you earn the right to deploy true AI capabilities. Only clean, structured data allows an algorithm to perform complex multivariate matchmaking, surface hidden performance analytics, and provide instant RG-based support. The result isn't just a 75% reduction in administrative burden, it is the liberation of experts to go back to being experts.
Which brings us to a critical reflection for anyone listening right now.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you look at your own professional environment. We are constantly surrounded by narratives that frame artificial intelligence through the lens of anxiety. We are told AI is a looming force coming to replace human labor, to render us obsolete.
But if you critically examine your own daily workflow, I want you to identify your own ghost data. I want you to ask yourself, how much of your time right now is spent acting like a poorly designed machine? How many hours of your week are consumed by moving data from one silo to another, chasing colleagues for updates, manually cross-referencing conflicting files, or serving as the human duct tape for software systems that refuse to communicate?
The true promise of artificial intelligence, when architected on a solid strategic foundation, is not about rendering you obsolete. It is about stripping away the robotic, administrative busywork that human beings were never meant to do in the first place. The genuinely provocative question isn't whether AI is going to take your job. The question is, what is your actual core expertise going to look like? And what are you going to have to deliver once you are no longer allowed to hide behind the excuse of administrative busywork?
When you finally escape the sinking swamp of operational debt and step into a fully integrated intelligent system, you actually have to start performing at the peak of your human potential.
Exactly. You have to prove your real value. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of genuine operational transformation. We will see you next time.